Welcome to Together We Awaken, Finding Light in the Dark. I'm Allison Brunner, your soul sister, human guide, and rebirth midwife. I'm a spiritual guide and shamanic healing practitioner. And before we dive into today's episode, I want to invite you into something sacred and transformative. My monthly group healing circles called The Hearth. These intimate, spirit-led sessions are held every first Monday, second Tuesday, and third Wednesday of the month at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, and the fourth Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern. And the next opening is Monday, July 7th at 6 p.m. Eastern. At the Hearth, we come together to be witnessed, energetically held, and gently unraveled in all of the right places so you can come home to your own power, intuition, and peace. And participants often describe leaving with more clarity, more calm, insight, and emotional release or healing. It is not surface work. It's deep, transformative, and nourishing soul medicine. You can also do this work with me one-on-one. I will be opening for a new client perhaps in middle July. And these sessions are powerful containers of transformation where I combine intuitive guidance, shamanic energy work, and somatic techniques to help you clear emotional blockages and reconnect with your inner wisdom and step into your aligned life. I don't foresee that I will be offering these one-on-one sessions indefinitely. I do see that there is a time coming when I will no longer open to new clients. So schedule while you can. And you can learn more and sign up at AllisonBrunner.com or through the link in the show notes. So, this is episode 14, The Chrysalis, Becoming the You You've Never Been Before. And this will be probably a shorter episode than most have been so far. I decided to stay consistent weekly if possible, while also enjoying summer and being more embodied, living more slowly and more mindfully. And I'd rather come on week to week and have shorter episodes. We'll see how it goes. But the summertime, as I've said before, is my favorite time of year, and it's important to me to be in nature as much as possible. So this episode is a gentle but honest look at a deeply uncomfortable and very sacred phase of the awakening journey. We talk about it all the time, but do we really go and feel our relationship to it? And that's the chrysalis, the in-between, the not quite anything yet place. We'll explore what it really means to surrender our old identity, release the fantasy of returning to what once was, and sit in the quiet space between caterpillar and butterfly. So let's begin. The chrysalis is not necessarily the becoming. It's the dissolution. It's the phase after the old identity no longer fits, but the new self, it's before the new self has emerged. It's well after you've gone through great loss, reconfiguration in your life, and then it's this quiet place. It's messy and uncomfortable and non-linear, but most of all, it's wildly sacred. And I've been in that chrysalis more than once. And now I'm in another one. And to be honest, I feel pretty impatient much of the time. But that's kind of part of it. It's about loving the impatience, having compassion for the you that wants something to happen. I'm also trying to really embrace it and enjoy it. Allow it to give me permission to go slow, to be slow, more mindful and intentional, and to create more spaciousness in my life. The chrysalis is a kind of death, but it's also a kind of birth. The parts of you that were built to survive no longer make sense. You've outgrown the identity that you were, or you wore even, for years. But the new one hasn't fully formed yet. So you may feel unformed and raw or even invisible. And sometimes that invisibility can hurt. My longest chrysalis phase, when I went through that, I was in what I now see as a long, slow motion metamorphosis. So many of you know that I lived one that meant I could barely move some days. But what I want to focus on here is how I was living far from all the friendships that I had known. And in fact, I'd let most of them go. And my identity was unraveling. It was tough trying to hold on to old relationships when I didn't even really know who I was anymore, because that was being reformed. Aspects of me would remain the same, the aspects of me that are truly who I am, and others were being burned away. But I'd often lie in bed scrolling through social media, and everyone, I wonder if you can relate to this, everyone seemed to be living happy, full lives with so much activity and successes. And yes, I knew on some level that it was curated, that people mostly share their wins and not their heartbreaks. And I'm a Gen Xer. I'm not going to share most of my heartbreaks, right? I'm not one of the younger ones that get on and just pour their hearts out, right? But and neither did my peers at the time. But it still pierced something in me. I felt left out and forgotten, even though I deliberately separated myself from, most of society, literally with my physical home and letting go of friendships. It didn't take away from the fact that it still felt, that the time still felt like a death. And there was a part of me that kept wanting to get back to my old life, back to the dance studio, back to festivals in the city, back to hiking long trails. And there was always something to do in that former life, the art and the theater and the dancing and the parties, concerts and people. But I was being invited to learn how to sit in the quiet, to be there in the space in between the noise, to go deeper into the nothingness. And I had to learn to recognize that this space It didn't mean that I was a failure. It it wasn't necessarily emptiness. It was really transformation. And you know what's interesting about it is, even though there was an aspect of me that resisted it and didn't like it and wished that it could be different, it and it seemed like nothing was happening in my life. It's the time that the most was happening, not out here, but in here. I never experienced more growth in my life than in that time when I was mostly in bed and still and alone. That time, those quiet, strange, slow days were the most magical. Not because they felt good always, but because they brought me face to face with myself. And one second, need a little caffeine. It has rained and rained for days here now, and all the negative ions make me very sleepy. But when you're not surrounded by a million people and distractions, there's only you. And that's when you begin to see yourself clearly. At first with mostly judgment, but then you start to see more clearly. You see the cracks, you see your beauty, your shadow, and your soul. And it's when radical self-compassion is born. In that discomfort, there's a place in you that knows, if no one out here is going to come and rescue me from this, if no one out here is going to sit by my side through this transformational period, then I have no one to express compassion for me except me. And so you do it, because if you don't, it's so much more painful. So if you let it in, you begin to fall in love with yourself. You begin to shed all the roles that you played to fit in and to remember who you really are. Quite honestly, there were moments when I felt so bored and restless, I didn't know what to do with myself. Putting together puzzles became a bit of a pastime. but something interesting happened. My boredom sparked creativity, and also my intuition got louder. But I began to paint rocks and seashells, and I began singing, sometimes just making up songs and putting together puzzles and taking long Epsom salt baths and getting to know essential oils through pouring them in the bath, because I had nothing else to do but sit for a long time in the bath, and I'd get to know which oil made me feel what way. Lighting candles and asking my body how she wanted to move that day. It became this very sacred relationship with my body. I wasn't even, well, I was well enough for yin yoga, but I was just too darn tired to get just to start it. So I'd lie on the floor and let the music play and let my body guide me. And I would listen to the crickets and the birds and the katydids. And in those quiet moments, something really happened. I could feel my soul. It was like it got louder, not with like words, but it was this presence that was very clear and potent. And I definitely didn't feel alone anymore when that happened. The presence took up so much space and was so palpable that loneliness was no longer a thing. I felt, honestly, sometimes like I was on a date with my higher self. I actually could feel romance with God, with something eternal. And it was sweet and real. And I think I remember once I started looking on the internet about Is it normal to feel romance with God? And I found that book, Red Hot and Holy. Who wrote it? I forget her name, but that was a fun book that I read in the Poconos on a little retreat by myself. But we often think of the chrysalis as winter and as death and silence, but maybe it's also spring. The moment just before blooming. You've gone through the loss and the grief and the spiritual depression, and now you're in this space where the new is growing. It hasn't bloomed yet, but it's coming and you can feel it. You've planted the seeds, you whispered your wishes, set your intentions, and cleared away what no longer served. And now you wait and listen. But because you're not fully in bloom yet, part of you will naturally miss what was. You don't know what the future looks like. So you look back and long for what used to be. I've done that. It's okay, but see if you can gently guide your gaze back ahead, mostly in the now moment, while dreaming your future into being. I've longed to feel as strong as I once did hiking the Appalachian Trail. I've longed to dance ballet in the studio again. I've longed at times for the buzz of city life. But what I'm building now is stronger than all of that. It is a spiritual strength that requires my physical body to slow down and soften and open. And after my first long chrysalis phase, I came out looking different, thinner in places I'd never been and plumper in others. My face changed, my body changed. I felt different, but I was still me, but I was more me. And I did get a reprieve. So early in the year 2022, I did get to live again, to love again, to laugh and go places and be with people. But life is made of cycles, and now I'm in another one. This one feels gentler because now I know that this isn't forever and that it's sacred and I can enjoy that. There's not the panic of, God, is this going to last forever? Has all of the joy died? And I feel joy. It's just, will I ever run again? Will I ever dance hard again? This time I'm honoring my body. I know that what I'm in is temporary and I'm not overriding it. And I'm hosting friends, but I'm not scrubbing the house. I'm serving love, not perfection and wonderful meals. And my friends accept me as I am because I accept me. I have a friend, Krista, who said, when I was feeling very, very tired, right after the New Year, I suppose, or before, what if we didn't have to hide from each other when we're in this space? What if we could just show up as we are and just be together? We don't have to do anything. And she taught me that. And I'm still learning it. But what if we could show up messy and tired and imperfect? And what if that's enough? So, Krista, if you're listening, I'm ready for another hangout. But I still lean into solitude because that's how I go deepest. And but now I know how to find the balance, and I'm almost there. I think I'm trusting the process because when you're in the chrysalis, you're not failing. You're becoming the you that you've never been before. And I promise you, it's worth the wait. Thank you for being here with me this week. If you feel like you're in the chrysalis right now, I see you. This season is sacred, and if you'd like to be held through it, join me at the hearth or reach out for a one-on-one session. All the links are in the show notes. This is Together We Awaken, and I will see you next time.